Japan, located in the Northwest Pacific Ocean, is long known as a world power. However, little do people know that in the 1600s, Japan was just an isolated country. Following a national seclusion policy, it kept itself secluded from much of the world for more than 2 centuries, until the issuance of the Meiji Restoration that paved the way for Japan to become a world power as it is today. Japanese seclusion. Japan's seclusion began under the Tokugawa shogunate, the feudal military government of Japan established at Edo, present-day Tokyo, during the Edo period. At this time, the real political power was held by shoguns, the Japanese military dictators, all from the Tokugawa family, while the emperor only ruled in name. In 1543, a group of Portuguese traders on a Chinese boat drifted to the island of Tanegashima, a small island near Kyushu, becoming the first Europeans to set foot on Japan and also initiating direct commercial and cultural exchange between Japan and the West. This period of trading was called the non-bond trade period, during which matchlock firearms, galleon-style shipbuilding, and Christianity were introduced to Japan. When the Warring States period ended, fear of the extensive influence of Christianity in Japan and a threat to his power from the Western countries, Tokugawa issued the Sakoku policy, closed country, that isolated Japan from the outside world. According to the isolationist policy, foreigners entering Japan and common Japanese leaving the country were prescribed a death penalty, while relations and trade between Japan and other countries were severely limited. Specifically, European trade was limited to Dutch traders on the island of Dejima in Nagasaki. Trade with China was conducted through the port of Nagasaki. Trade with Korea was limited to the Tsushima domain, today part of Nagasaki Prefecture. Trade with the Ainu people was limited to the Matsume domain in Hokkaido. And trade with the Ryukyu Kingdom was in the Satsuma domain, part of present-day Kagoshima Prefecture. The opening up of Japan and the end of the Shogun era. In 1853, Commodore Matthew Perry of the United States Navy arrived south of Yokohama with a fleet of 4 American warships to look for a trade agreement, putting an end to Japan's 220 years of isolation. Under threat of force, Japan had to sign the Treaty of Kanagawa, bringing a plethora of unfavorable agreements to Japan itself, one of which was the opening of Shimoda and Hakodate ports to American vessels. 4 years later, the Harris Treaty forced Japan to open 4 more ports for American trade, namely Kanagawa, Nagasaki, Niigata, and Hyogo. While the emperor refused to accept these treaties, the shogun, fear of Western powers, continued to sign similar treaties with Holland, Russia, Britain, and France, stoking anger among many Japanese. Later, 2 of the strongest domains, Choshu and Satsuma, formed an alliance called Sacho, aiming to destroy the Tokugawa shogunate and return power back to the emperor. After Emperor Komei died and his son was crowned Emperor Meiji, civil unrest continued, making it hard for the new ruler Tokugawa Yoshinobu to maintain his power, leading to his resignation in November 1867. The Boshin War and the subsequent fall of Edo led by the Sacho alliance, finally overthrew the shogunate, marking the end of the Tokugawa military dictatorship and the beginning of the Meiji era. The Meiji Restoration to modernize Japan. After taking the throne in 1868, Emperor Meiji had implemented a comprehensive reform called Meiji Restoration, which was followed by an era of major political, economic, and social change in Japan, leading to its modernization and westernization. The early goals of Emperor Meiji were reflected via the Charter Oath of Five Principle, which guided Japan to modernization and adoption of a Western parliamentary constitution. While the country was still unsettled, the emperor made his first action to relocate his capital from Kyoto to Edo, which was later renamed Tokyo, Eastern capital. Few years later, the administrative reorganization successfully dismantled the old feudal regime, abolished feudal class privileges, and replaced feudal domains with a system of prefectures. During the Meiji period, Japan underwent a rapid transition towards an industrial economy, adopting Western political, judicial, and military institutions. The new government organized the Privy Council, introduced the Meiji Constitution, and assembled the Imperial Diet. Besides significant changes in politics, education, and economics, the modernization and enlargement of the Imperial Japanese Army played a key role in Japan's expansion abroad. The conscription law was established, increasing the number of soldiers in the army. Additionally, Japanese leaders focused on not only adopting the weaponry of the Western world, but also developing its military towards Western models, such as Britain's Navy, America's logistics system, and Germany's infantry. The invasion of Taiwan under Qing rule, a punitive expenditure by Japanese military forces in response to the Mudan incident of 1871, marked the first overseas deployment of the Imperial Japanese Army and Navy. The emergence of Imperial Japan. By the 1890s, the Imperial Japanese Army had grown to become the most modern army in Asia, bringing Japan dozens of glorious victories. After consolidating its control over Hokkaido and annexing the Ryukyu Islands, Japan began its territorial expansion. Its first targets were Korea, China, and Russia. After the First Sino-Japanese War, Taiwan was ceded to Japan. The Russo-Japanese War was another victory for Japan, giving the country control over the southern half of Sakhalin. Korea, following the Japan-Korea Treaty, was also annexed to Japan in 1910. In the early 20th century, the Taisho period marked Japan's increasing expansionism. By joining the Allies during World War I, Japan managed to capture German possessions in the Pacific and China. As early as 1931, the Empire of Japan invaded Manchuria, a small resource-rich province in northern China. Japan continued invading other parts of China, which precipitated the Second Sino-Japanese War. In 1940, Japan joined the Axis powers formed in response to its ally with Germany and Italy through the signing of the Tripartite Pact in Berlin. 1 year later, Japan gained control over the whole of French Indochina. As part of Japan's ambition to dominate the Pacific, in 1941, Japan launched a surprise attack on Pearl Harbor, a U.S. naval base on Oahu Island, Hawaii, followed by other campaigns targeting British armies in Malaya, Singapore, and Hong Kong, triggered the outbreak of World War II. Japan after World War II until today. Although World War II, which culminated in the Soviet invasion of Manchuria and the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, ended with Japan being occupied, giving all its colonies to Allied powers and losing millions of lives, Japan has revived phenomenally from the ashes of this bloody war. In 1952, the Treaty of San Francisco ended the Allied occupation, and 4 years later, Japan was granted a member of the United Nations and further cemented its international standing when it hosted the Olympic Games in Tokyo in 1964. During the post-war recovery period, Japan recorded a period of high growth, which transformed the Japanese economy and society significantly. As a result, Japan became the world's second largest capitalist economy, behind the US, until recently when it was overtaken by China. Today, Japan is well known as a world leader in the automotive and electronics industries, with many internationally renowned manufacturing companies like Toyota, Mitsubishi Corporation, Honda Motor Company, Hitachi, Sony, and Panasonic. Japanese popular culture, including video games, anime, and manga, also becomes a worldwide phenomenon, especially among young people. The country is also the 11th populous country and is among the most powerful military in the world. Overall, the 20th century saw the remarkable transformation and expansionism of Japan. From an isolated nation, Japan had emerged as the most developed and modernized nation in Asia, and as an industrialized world power. Thanks for watching. If you find this information useful, please give us a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more videos of history.